Hey everyone, welcome again. In this video, I'll go over what it's been like using the Microsoft Lumia 640 smartphone over the past 2 weeks. The Lumia 640 is running Windows 10 Mobile, which was the last of Microsoft's phone operating systems. Initially released in 2015, it struggled to make any dent against the dominant market share of iOS and Android. And 2 years later, in 2017, Microsoft completely stopped developing new features, and by around January of 2020, completely ended all support for it. As far as the included apps go, Microsoft Office and OneDrive no longer connect to Microsoft servers on this phone. The same goes with Mail, Calendar, and Outlook, so I can't see my emails or update calendars using this phone. The Edge browser does work, but some websites don't show up correctly because it's an outdated browser, and the ones that do sometimes load very slow. Cortana, which was Microsoft's voice assistant at the time, just opens the Edge web browser and does normal web searches whenever you ask her anything, even something like setting an alarm. As for what does work, the weather app works fine, and I can see the forecast for today and the rest of the week, as well as sunrise, sunset, rain, humidity, UV, and wind information. But it only shows me local weather information, and I wasn't able to search for weather in other cities. The Translate app also works, and Groove Music can play MP3 files that are stored locally on the phone. Groove Music was Microsoft's music streaming platform at the time of Windows 10 Mobile's release. It replaced Xbox Music from Windows Phone 8, which in turn had replaced Zoom Music from Windows 7. The music streaming part of the service is now ended, and the app still shows the notice of Microsoft's recommendation to upgrade to Spotify or switch to Spotify, but the app itself can still play music that's saved directly on the phone. It does also seem that Groove Music can still download album art, so it has that option still, that function. The Movies and TV app does let me download and watch movies that I've bought previously from the Microsoft Store, and it also does let me search through some newer titles. I didn't try buying anything new, but it probably is possible to still do that. The default Maps app on this phone can also find locations and give me directions, but it doesn't show real-time traffic data anymore. Two nice things on this phone are that it has a headphone jack still here on the top, right there. And if you remove the plastic back cover, there's a removable micro SD slot for expanded storage. The built-in speaker here on the back of the phone is loud, but it's not very great quality. So it's nice to have the option to plug in headphones and listen to music and movies that way. And as far as storage space, the phone itself only came with 8 gigabytes of storage, but it has the option to add an additional 128 gigabyte micro SD card, and in the settings menu you can specify what you want to save on the micro SD card, like apps, music, photos. So you can save a pretty big music or movie library on the phone and take it with you. It does also have a removable battery that's accessible also by removing the plastic back cover, which is also how you would get to the micro SD card slot. As far as apps that do not require an internet connection, there is a calculator app, an alarms and clock app, and a camera app that I tried a few times during the week. This Lumia 640 phone was already a budget phone when it was released in 2015, and the 6 megapixel camera that it comes with was decent at the time, but compared to today's phone cameras, it's really only useful if you have really good lighting and there's no alternative. It does struggle in low light and indoor nighttime photos. It does also have the option to manually select camera settings if you want that kind of control on your photos. And it also comes with the ability to take panorama photos. As this should give you a sense of some of the photo qualities. I did take some photos and of different things here during during the day, so you can see. Let's see, we'll show. Oh, okay. There's. Let me flip it this way. So there's some photos, flowers, other photos, more flowers. You can see the camera. You can see things clearly. Although if you try to zoom in, even on this first photo, let's see if we zoom in on that flower, and then I try to get this thing to show properly. You can see some detail on there as well. I won't show the nighttime photos. They're mostly blurry and dark. As far as recording video, this phone records in 1080p video at 30 frames per second. So I can see it being useful as a dash cam if you want to use that, just provided you don't let it overheat. Of course, a smartphone is only a smartphone when because of the apps, and the Microsoft Store always had a pretty terrible selection of apps compared to iOS and Android. Even worse, the option of view and install apps on the Microsoft Store has been completely removed as of earlier this year. So when you try to look for an app, all you get is a white screen at this point. There's no option to get new apps or install them. There is a workaround for that. That is that you can still install apps that are in your library. So if you have access to a Windows 10 or Windows 11 computer, you can get apps on those from the Microsoft Store that are also have a phone option. And then if you go to your library in here, you will be able to see some of those apps, and you can just install them directly from there. Some of the not all Windows apps have a phone version, and some that don't work that well anymore. Especially any apps that need to connect to the internet. So when I tried to search both the Engadget and the Epicurious apps, they both have connection issues because they cannot connect to servers. And there are also, I was also not able to find the Spotify app anymore, or any kind of video streaming services like Netflix. Pandora does work, so I'm able to listen to on internet radio through the Pandora app. And there's also a dictionary app, and that also seems to work well because the data for that app is stored on the phone itself. In terms of note-taking apps, the Notepad X app works well for saving notes and taking notes and saving them locally on the device. I did not try any kind of synchronizing. I don't expect that to work too well. But if you want to keep your notes on the phone, just locally, that's also a good option. And it has tabbed options as well, a tabbed interface on the top, so you can switch to multiple files at the same time. I did also install an app called Project Studio, which lets me create several projects with different task lists for each of them and set different deadlines for them. So it's kind of a basic app, but it's useful as a to-do list. Again, most of my Microsoft apps, like Microsoft To Do, is no longer supported on this phone. So this is just a third-party app that is still available. For the 60-day challenge that I wanted to do, I wanted to see how well this Lumia 640 can interact with other devices with outdated operating systems, including a laptop that's currently running Windows XP. I haven't had any luck connecting to Windows XP. When I plug this into the USB port on the computer, it just gives me an error. At first, it gave me some errors asking for drivers, and then when I was able to get past those, it's not able to open the files on this phone as an external storage. If you connect it to a computer running Windows 10 or Windows 11, you'll be able to open the files normally as if it's an external storage, but not with Windows XP. My hypothesis for that is that because Microsoft ended support for Windows XP in 2014 and Windows 10 Mobile wasn't released until 2015, then Microsoft simply didn't make Windows 10 mobile phones compatible with Windows XP. I do think that there's one workaround that could work, and that is taking out the micro SD card from here, putting it onto a SD card reader, and connecting that to the computer. If you have a computer that has a built-in SD card reader, then you could go with that route. The laptop that I'm currently using does not have that, however, so I'll need to get an external card reader and then try that way. So I'll talk about that experience in a future video as well. As far as the user experience, Windows 10 Mobile in 2025 does feel very simple compared to what we're used to expecting from a more modern mobile operating system. As one example of that is when you're on the home screen, swiping from the left and swiping from the bottom doesn't really do anything. Swiping from the left and swiping from the bottom doesn't do anything. If you swipe from the top, you are able to get a quick actions menu, such as turning on airplane mode or flashlight. And if you swipe in from the right, this is how you get access to all of your apps. It does also come. It also does come with a battery saving option. And then on the bottom, along the bottom edge here, you'll see that there are 3 buttons. There is a back button, the Windows home button, and a magnifying glass button that brings up Cortana. But at this time, again, Cortana only does web searches. Windows 10 Mobile, just like Windows Phone 8 and Windows Phone 7 that came before it, uses what Microsoft calls the Metro interface, where apps are sorted into squares, sort of a square grid on the home screen. And the squares have different sizes. There's a regular square size, there's a larger rectangular size that's about twice the size of a normal of your standard square, and then there's the small icon, which is about a quarter of the size of the standard square. Some apps also have the option for what Microsoft called the live tile, where the app can cycle through additional information, typically only available in the standard and the large tile sizes. For example, the photo app will show some of your photos, and the weather app will also show like the updated weather conditions, so you don't have to go into the app to see these things. You can just take a quick look and you'll be able to get the information you need. It's very similar to widgets that you can find on iOS or Android, but iOS specifically did not introduce widgets until 2020 with the release of iOS 14. So the live tiles in Windows 10 actually predates that. Within the apps themselves, the Metro design interface focuses on very clear and easy to read text and lots of side-loading menus. So an example of that would be here. I'll show you with the dictionary app. You can see that now this is a third-party app, but it uses the same design language. So when you click on anything, everything on any button, the options come in through the side. Again, let me show. Let's see. So you click on any of these, and you see how all the menus load off the side. That's something that's very common with these Metro type apps. And the design styles actually originated with the Microsoft Zune and Xbox devices, and was then adapted for smartphones and Windows computers with the release of Windows 8. The menu switching applications are pretty, I like them, but after a while you do notice that it takes a while for menus to load. So what has it been like using Microsoft Lumia 640 for about 2 weeks now? I mostly just use it to listen to music, take a few quick notes, and just keep a handy to-do list that I can check from time to time throughout the day. The phone does still have its original battery, and after I set it to airplane mode, to turn off the unnecessary cell and Bluetooth connections, I'm able to get about 4 days of battery use. The app selection was already very limited when Windows 10 Mobile was supported, but now there are even less apps that still work. I've heard that there are ways to sideload old apps on there old apps that are no longer available on the Microsoft Store, including some third-party ports of popular social media sites. But it honestly just seems like a lot of work, and this device really shouldn't be anyone's daily driver at this point. It's handy as a music player. You can carry around the house when you don't want to have your phone with you. When you just want to put your main phone down and focus on a particular task. But it's also useful if you want to have a handy calculator or a dictionary. And with the expanded storage, it also works as a dash cam. You can put it on your car and just take video as you're driving. But other than that, I haven't had much use for it otherwise. So it's good to just have it, bring it up, do something quick, put it back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I am planning to do more my next videos will be about the HP laptop that's running Windows XP and on the Samsung Galaxy Tab that's running Android 4.4. So, and I'll also plan to do more videos on the Lumia 640 as well. So I hope to see you guys then, and see you guys later.